welcome back to the round 15 Supercoach review with me, JD. 2409 for me this week, which is a pretty average score. I think if you're like top 1000, top 100, this is well below par, probably like 50 to 100 points. But for around 10,000, I think it was, I guess, a close to par, which surprised me because I thought my score was really bad. I guess it's just kind of bad. So like I held rank basically. That's not really a move, which is a bit sad. Lots to talk about this week, I think. Well, maybe not lots. I think the big thing here is what to do with Stewart. We can probably touch on what happens if English and Butters miss another week as well. Maybe we'll touch on Gore news a little bit, but there's probably not a ton. I guess this is the nice part about from round 15 onwards with Supercoach, you get to cruise a little bit, just because there's not as many decisions to make unless you're playing for leagues. Obviously, the thing that you really wanted an update on was my fantasy team, which had a good week. So 2362. How do I check rankings? No idea. No idea how to tell what we thought was a good score for round 16. No clue. No, round 15. Oh, this was just meant to be a quick check. It was not meant to go on this long. I think I was 252 for the week. That's pretty good. Take that. But yeah, that team's sitting top 200 now, which is pretty good. And this actually format is fun from this point on in the year because you just get to trade premiums. Like I think I'm going to trade Crips to Steel this week, which is pretty nuts because you just get unlimited trades. But anyway, top 200. If you finish top 100, you get a hat, which is highly coveted in that format. Given it's the first year that I've played it, in its current iterational format, I think it'd be pretty good if we got a top 100 finish. So yeah, just to give you an idea, my score was bad this week, right? Because I'm basically in leagues with only good people, and I lost all 10 leagues. So there you go. Anyone that had a good team or was a good player probably did much better than 2400 like me. So let's quickly go through where did it all fall apart. Well, I think down back, basically all the top premiums there, Sinclair, Doherty, Crisp, Short to a lesser extent, all had poor games. I think like most of these are commonly owned. I don't know if having all four of them is commonly owned. Like, some people had Stewart, who obviously had a better score. Did Sicily score okay this week? I know it wasn't great in fantasy. I think it was okay in Supercoach, wasn't it? No, so people would have had Sicily instead of me, but I guess I didn't get to make up any points. Dawson, obviously the shining light for the week, and he was very good. Very, very good. We'll come back to the defenders and who your options are if you've got Stewart, whether you should trade him out or not, like how many people. But yeah, defense pretty disappointing this week. Short, we kind of talked about it, that midfield role. He looks okay in there, but he's not scoring particularly well. I think even if you were considering trading him out as a luxury trade, they've got West Coast, Gold Coast, and North in the next three. So those are three really strong matchups where you'd expect to see some good scores from Short. Chris was pretty disappointing today, but I don't think the conditions really helped him. I thought like he'd be able to get a bit of outside run going. But yeah, in the fourth when the game was on the line, it was, raining, absolutely bucketing down. It kind of doesn't really suit his outside game style. So, and Sinclair got tagged, which is unfortunate. Not really much you can do about this. And then Doherty, I guess a lot of his stuff was uncontested, which is why he got scored. He was a 121 in fantasy, so this is a minus 30 point difference here. So lots of uncontested stuff kind of doesn't help you scoring a lot, even if you're relatively effective. But I still thought like he deserved 100 out of that game. Anyway, maybe it's just because of ownership. Rory Thompson, who we thought might come back, didn't, and I don't think there was any. There was one Gold Coast injury, which was Davies, right? Who's a midfielder. So I don't know if there's a spot for Thompson to come back, but they lost, so maybe they make changes. In the mids, we had a lot of much better stuff going on here. Now, very annoyingly, like McRae into Laird was what I wanted to do, and I still thought Laird would beat this 123. But I buckled and somehow got convinced that I should just take the 123 and play it safe, even though kind of like 125 is my benchmark. And Laird had, so like if all my other captain options had really tough matchups, like Neil, Oliver, I didn't really want to touch it because it's a tough matchup. I couldn't tell who was going to score well there. Cripps didn't have an easy matchup against Freo. The Port matchup's okay, but like Took wasn't really trustworthy. So like I really wanted to captain Laird against North. I didn't do it. I lost 33 points. That's on me. I should have done it. People will say that taking any time, you should take 120 plus. I don't know. My captain average is this year's like 140. So 125 is kind of like my benchmark. And I should have backed that in. So that sucks. Yeah, Oliver was obviously good. Neil got a bit of attention in that Demons game. So to get to the 111, it was like Harms that was following him around the ground. So to get to a 111 is still pretty respectable. Miller was on for a much bigger game than this, but he got attention in the second half by William Drew. He was just hanging off him at every stoppage. I surprised he wasn't getting freeze paid against him. So yeah, a few unfortunate scores this week in Sinclair, Neil, and Miller getting tagged, but Neil and Miller are very highly owned. Sinclair probably less so, but it is what it is. And then, yeah, lead was phenomenal. I mean, we talked about the reason for trading in lead and targeting was just because of that soft fixture. Melbourne, obviously, a harder game this week, but then after that, you're going back into the Hawthorn, Collingwood as the next two. Still has West Coast and North to play again in the back half of the year, and Port as well, who he should score well against. So, yep, still a big fan of his. Merritt was okay, but it was against West Coast. You expect better than a 111 against West Coast. And you also expect to win, so that's a shame. I guess like the scary thing with Merritt is the Swans is who he had his 51 against earlier on in the year, so hope to see an alright score there. And then Cripps, he was probably on for a bigger score than this as well, but faded in this game. Yeah. Yeah, it's always, I guess, the problem with Carlton is that in games where they, in games where they have to share the scoring a bit, you can just see some average scores here. Like Walsh sucked up a lot of the points. And then Petrarca, I think this is another game where we had 30 touches and didn't ton, which is a bit disappointing. He's an all right pickup still, I think, from here on out. If you're looking for a cheap mid, should be okay. None of my mid bench played, which is probably not an issue because I've still got 4 trades. So anyone that gets injured or misses a week, I'll probably trade from here on out for the most part. In the rucks, we had Witts and Darcy. Darcy played all right, but he didn't clunk a lot of his marks around the ground. So this game could have been better than what it was. And then Witts was pretty dominant for Gold Coast. He had something I really should have checked what the final stats was, but 21 touches and 18 were contested or something like that, which is just ridiculous. He had a bunch of hitouts to advantage as well. It was a very good game by Witts. Actually, somewhat surprising he didn't score more, but I guess if this is a game where they had won convincingly early on with all the work he was doing, he might have got scaled into the 170, 180, but as it is, still a good score, but unfortunately, he's not really much of a pod anymore. I think he's pretty highly owned now. 48% of teams. Wow. That's crazy. What's Sinclair? 34%, and then Neil is 70%, and Took is 42%. So, yeah. Yep, okay. Forward line, so yeah, English missed, and I think the talk is that he's likely to miss another one, which isn't surprising, but unfortunate for my SuperCoach team. So on the Thursday game, which is when they play, and it's great to have Thursday football, so I'm never going to knock that. That is the 12th day of the protocols, which is when he's allowed to come out. But because he's had concussion history before, it's just from Bevo's words in the press conference, it sounds unlikely, I would say. Less likely than likely he gets up for the game this week, which means he might be sitting on the pine for another week. That is going to present a problem for me because I had to take Judson Clark's 26, which is abhorrent. Just truly shocking score. I know a lot of people probably had to take some bad scores, like Hobbs didn't do well, Clark didn't do well, Roses didn't do well. So anyone that was holding English and then taking a score here didn't do well. So I guess I'm probably not in that big different of a boat to others, but 26 particularly bad. You just want a 50 or a 60. I could wear that for 2 weeks. But I think there's a good chance that Clark gets dropped after this score, reasonably good chance. And that is a problem for me because if English misses and Clark is dropped, then I'm going to potentially copying a 0 here. I don't think Hamilton plays this week. So the only thing I could potentially do is either trade English, which I'm not keen on if he's back next week, or downgrade someone like a Clark to a forward mid rookie this week and then swing him into the forward line, which I might have to do. And it's not how you want to be using these last trades. It does make some bank. So if I do have to trade around later, I can get, maybe to an Uber premium in a line. But yeah, that's frustrating. All right, and then rest of the forward line. So this is where my trades for the week actually were. So I had Butters, who I needed to trade, and I had my last upgrade that needed to be done. So the upgrade was McCartan to Bont, which had always been the plan coming out of the buys. Very happy with that 136 out of Bont, but it doesn't take a genius to see that he was probably going to be a top 6 forward from here and one of the better options to pick. But look, still happy to get on him regardless. And then my other choice was who did move Butters to? I didn't have a lot of money here. Oh, I went Heeney over Taranto, who were the two that I was considering. And look, that might have actually ended up being more points this week. 3 more points, whoop, whoop. But it looked like they eased Taranto in a little bit. They gave him a lot of forward time in the first part of the game, and then gave him some on-ball time in the crunch time towards the end of the game, which I guess is a promising sign. But Taranto didn't have a great game just because he was starved of opportunity. And they also had him off the ground a lot. Like, he had low time on ground, I think, compared to what you would expect out of him. So going forward, of these, I'd probably actually still prefer Taranto. But the only reason why I went Heeney is just because their fixture is pretty soft. So Essendon this week, and then you can see Bulldogs and Freo here are 2 tough games. But then after that, you've got Adelaide, who's easy, GWS, who isn't playing defense, North, who's easy, Collingwood, who's definitely on the harder side, but you can still score well against them, and St Kilda, who's mid-table, you can score well. So I just went Heeney because of this fixture. I thought there's potentially a lot of goals in here for him. Looked a little bit better last week, and sure enough, he kicked 3 goals. I mean, if you'd told me that you could pick Heeney up for 450 and he's going to kick 3 goals for you, I would have said I'm signing up for an easy 100, but it was just a 59. And this sucks because the option I said that I would have loved to have gone if I had more money, and I guarantee you I would have gone it, is Harry Himmelberg, who was 503k. He went up another 45k on the back of 114. It looked great. Kind of doesn't matter where they're putting him at the moment, as long as it's not full forward. If he's doing ruck with a little bit of forward or like defense, which is where he played most of the game, he just looks really good at the moment. Went huge. Cogs also looked really good in that game. Kicked a nice goal, a 109 out of him. He just keeps on keeping on. It's pretty crazy that he's ended up being a keeper for us, really. Only Will Brody's been crazier, who dunked on me again this week. Dunkley was good. Park was pretty rotten. He somewhat salvaged his score, but yeah, as we mentioned, like, Swan's fixture's pretty nice, so I'm not too worried about Park from here on out. Okay. So yeah, the big option, or the big talking point for the week is what to do with Stewart. And so this is obviously a little bit team dependent, right? And it's also dependent on what happens with the tribunal. So where my understanding of what's happened is it's been graded as like careless, severe impact, and high, which on the grading table I believe is 3 weeks. That's kind of the starting point. But because it's been referred to the tribunal, that to me sounds like they might be pushing for more, like 4 weeks or 5 weeks. So I'm going to break this into 2 situations. What happens if he gets 3 weeks? And what happens if he gets 4 weeks? And then we'll go by how many trades you've got and whether that makes a difference. So if I had Stewart, 4 trades, so let me just start with the baseline. 3 weeks or more is a trade in pretty much every team. And we'll go through options for that in a second. So who are the people that would actually hold Tom Stewart? So I'd say if it's 3 weeks and you have 2 or less trades and you have good cover as a rookie. Now, good cover, I think the only good person I would actually classify as good cover is like Jacob Ware, maybe Sam DeConning, or McCartan if you still have him, or obviously Dacos. So they're the 4 rookies. If one of them is your D7 and you've only got 2 trades or left and you've got Tom Stewart out for 3 weeks or less, you can hold. For everyone else, you're trading, all right? So it's like a very niche group that could hold Stewart. Everyone else, I think it's just a straight trade. Because like 3 weeks out or 4 weeks out with only about 9 weeks remaining, it's basically half the games. It's similar to if you get a season-ending injury in 4 or 5 weeks' time. So I think he's just a trade in pretty much all situations. Wow, he's in 20% of teams too, so there's a lot of people hurting. All right, Best defender options. So let's have a crack. I guess we should probably break it into two categories of if you can go up to anyone, who would it be? And if you could only get to people that is his price or less, who would it be? So if you could go up to anyone, who would it be? I would say this probably comes down to like who your rankings on the top 6 defenders are from here. But if I'm going off the top of my head, I think it's Sicily, Hewitt, Doherty, Dawson, Sinclair. Those 5 below him, I think, are the top 5 options. If you had to order them, I don't know. Like, I think Sicily's probably still one, but I really like Dawson. He's obviously heating up. Talked about the soft fixture with Laird. I think that's nice. Doherty, this role is just so free. The only concern with him is the same concern with Sinclair, which is like they could get tagged. I think it's pretty rare to go and tag a rebounding halfback. It occasionally happens, but it could. But yeah, so like maybe Sicily and then pick your favorite between Doherty, Dawson, and Sinclair. I would maybe order them like this: Sicily, Doherty, Dawson, Sinclair. And then Hewitt, who I still think is a great option, but I think he might slow down a little bit from here. So of these, like all of them are more expensive than Stewart apart from Hewitt. All right, then after that, it's like who is the 6th defender that you'd take? So I think you could go for someone like Crisp. If you don't have him, he's durable, and if you're low on trades, then like durable option from here makes sense. Unfortunately, his scoring's been a little bit down. If you look at like 3-round averages compared to a lot of these other ones here, he's the one that's decidedly not hot of the group. You know, looking at 5-round averages, yeah, Dawson up the top, Sinclair. Oh, Doherty's down a little bit. That's surprising. All right. So then cheaper options. It's probably not going to be Baker as much as I love him. I think you have to look at Aaron Hall. I think you have to. His scoring is phenomenal. It's just the injury risk. You've only got to. I mean, he's obviously got through a couple of games now, with the bye in the middle, so that's like a good little block there. And they didn't rush him back this time from injury, and you've only got to have him last about 8 games. So I think if you've got a decent number of trades, like if it was me this week, I had 4 trades left and I had Stewart, I'd go to 3 and go to Hall. I think over most of the other options I don't have, given I've already got, you know, a lot of these other ones. Like maybe I go Sicily over Hall, but given I'm light on cash, I think I'd rather have Hall in 90k or 80k, whatever it is. So I think Hall's the other option. Is there anyone else really? Like, I don't think I'd go Rich, especially at his price. I wouldn't go Lloyd, despite him having a better game this week. Hayden Young, I really like, but I don't think you could trust. Ridley, I don't think will score enough. Who got hot this week? Yeah, Lloyd and Rich, I wouldn't. Lever, I wouldn't. Houston's one that's been there or thereabout. I think if you look at total points, he must be close. Yeah, he's in the top 6. With Stewart out, yeah, like Houston and Dale are both like cheaper. They're both, I mean, I would say Dale is probably safer and more durable of the two. Houston's a bit more upside, but a bit more risk. I probably wouldn't touch Houston. Yeah, Velostone, he's back to the big scores. He's got 3-round averages. Oh, Brayshaw. Brayshaw's been really up and down with his scoring. Got Baker down here, as I mentioned. Okay. So yeah, so for me, it would be the ones here in green are probably like the top 4 targets plus Sicily. And then I think the one I'd be most likely to go for after this is Hall. If you didn't want to go Hall, like, yeah, Crisp is all right. Dale. That's probably it. Oh, you've got Whitfield still, who tunned again. I think he's been looking better too. GWS's fixture is not great though, so that's the only thing. I don't know if I'd trust him. I mean, he's had 3 tons in a row since Spike took over, so that's up to you. That's up to you. Of the cheaper options, he's probably the better one. Like I'd say he's probably better than a Baker or someone like that. All right, hopefully that helps. So I guess like if English misses again, what do you do? Yeah, I think you just wear whatever cover you've got. Everyone else is going to be in the same boat as you anyway, so I would just do that. And the only other thing to touch on is Luke Jackson, who obviously went huge. Where are you, Luke? And looked really good as number one ruck. Like we had chatting about this a little bit in Discord. I guess looks like he could be a better version of Tim English, where he's got some of that around the ground skills and nous, but he's much better at spreading from stoppages. Like he actually moves like a midfielder when he spreads, which is pretty scary given his size. Actually has burst. Like you see him running next to someone like a Petrarca and he doesn't look out of place, and that's a scary thought. And he probably can be a slightly better tap ruckman than Tim English as well, despite it not really being his forte. So yeah, he's got crazy good upside. But in terms of like for Supercoach this year, I think he's only relevant as long as Gorn is out, and then he goes back to worse scoring, unless they're going to ease Gorn back, give Jackson more ruck time, then maybe he does like average around 90s from there on out. The interesting part was Gorn wants to get back as soon as he can. It's a week to week, day to day type of thing, so he could be back as early as this week, which I think would be pretty scary. Otherwise, it sounds like it'll be the week after, which means if you were thinking about bringing him in this week, I'd probably avoid it, even though he's got a low break even. I just don't think his scoring is going to keep up from here on out. So, yep. Also, in addition to like Brody and Himmelberg, who I don't have, like special shout out to Darcy Cameron as well, who was nutso again. These guys, there's never been so many like good cheap options you could downgrade to throughout the year and have them work out. Something to keep in mind for the future. This seems to be more and more possible if they're getting the right roles. So yeah, those that have got like your Cameron, Himmelberg types, like Brody as well, flying, absolutely flying. Not me though, not me. So as you can probably guess, I'm probably doing no trades this week unless Clark's out and I need to downgrade someone like a Greg Clark to cover Judson Clark by getting in a Hollands if he debuts or something like that. I'm sure there's actual playing rookies that I can't think of that would fit this role perfectly, but yep. And then vice captain's the only last thing to cover here. So the two places to start are look for who's playing North, look for who's playing West Coast. Unfortunately, Geelong's playing North and Richmond's playing West Coast. These teams don't really have relevant players. Maybe if you got Nankervis in the rucks, you could play him against West Coast, but that's a late game. So I don't know. You probably wouldn't trust him as a captain. Nick Nat should be back this week if he got through the waffle unscathed. So maybe not. All right. So if those two are off the cards, who do you look at next? I think it's teams playing Hawks, Essendon, and Adelaide. So Melbourne is playing Adelaide this week, so I think that brings in like someone like a Clayton Oliver just as an option instantly. Let's have a look at his form. So 93, 204, and 205 are his last three against Adelaide. So I think without fail, Oliver is going to be your vice captain against Adelaide, given he's got 200s against them. Oh my God. Essendon plays the Swans, so I think Mills is the other potential option that you could go for. He went 169 on us, I want to say, in round 9 this year. Let's have a look. Oh, it's 167, 129 before that, and then an 87 before that. So I think Mills into Oliver looks like a pretty dream matchup for those that have them. Otherwise, who else I mentioned? Oh, we could look at GWS against Hawks. So GWS and Hawks, like I guess if you've got Josh Kelly, it's pretty hard to trust him as a captain option. I don't think I can trust like a Cogs or someone as a captain either, so I'll probably stay away from that. And then the Thursday night is a tough one. So it's Brisbane against the Dogs. Much like Brisbane against Melbourne last week, I probably want to stay away from this game. Carlton against St Kilda, I don't think you can trust Cripps, or like maybe a Doherty or a Sinclair could go big on that if they're both going to play the spare behind the ball and play a lot of uncontested stuff. But yeah, I think like Laird VC kind of has to be your default. Took against Collingwood, I don't know. He hasn't been that great. Wits is probably not someone I want to captain against them. Um, just because like Darcy Cameron Cox is at least a reasonable duo. Cox has got the height to kind of match Wits. Cameron's been playing well, good around the ground as well. So I don't know. I think my captain option is most likely to be Darcy at the moment, which is pretty scary. But Port just gave up massive points to Wits. They're playing that Finlayson, Dixon combo. Darcy should be able to absolutely monster them when it comes to hit-outs to advantage. So I think that's where I'm going to go, which is a bit spooky. And I think there's no need to carry on any longer than however long we've already gone, probably about 25 minutes, I'd say. That's where the team's at. Disappointed in Heeney, happy with Bont. Oliver has to be either your vice captain or captain this week, and I'd prefer to have him as your vice and check that score before you move on. Because the problem is, right, like, say you vice captain Neil or I don't know, Cripps or something like that, and they go 130, you probably have to take it. And then you miss out on a 180 upside game from Oliver, which I think is not a good spot you want to be in. So I think Clary has to be your VC, unless you have a good option like Mills beforehand. Mills into Oliver I'd be fine with. Because if Mills pops a 170 again, well, you take that. You're not going to get hurt too badly. All right, so let me know how you're going. Let me know if there's any like obvious trade issues that I'm missing I haven't given advice on. I'll try and help out below where I can. Otherwise, wishing you all a good week ahead. Obviously, see you on the Fantasy Take TV podcast for the late trades video on Friday. And I might even do a fantasy update video this week. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.